from today's TMJ4.
This is breaking news now on your side.
It's noon. That breaking news now. A fire that has been raging since rush hour in downtown Milwaukee. It's 12th and Valete, a 5-alarm blaze in the middle of a very hot and humid day. The building has since collapsed. Things started to crumble to the ground. A fire that has been raging, as we said, since the morning rush. And this video from earlier as that fire was just starting to rage out of control. Deputy Chief Randall Zingler of the Milwaukee Fire Department is briefing reporters on the scene right now. If we can dip into that, let's listen in.
They'll even try to make any type of entry in there. The problem is anytime you have sustained this much damage in a building, a lot of the evidence of where the fire might have started is destroyed by the fire itself. So it's going to be very difficult for them to be conclusive as to how the fire started.
Randy,
Deputy Chief,
about the extent of the maintenance response or other departments?
You know, I know we did have fire departments from outside the city coming in and manning some of our vacant firehouses, because we probably had about more than half of the department was here at the fire. So, but I don't have any details on that. That just wasn't. I was in charge of operations at the fire, and somebody else was talking about it. But it's not the first time we've used that, and it's proved to be a very valuable resource for us.
Since our last update, the building has collapsed. I know you touched on it, but can you tell us, were there any firefighters around the building at the time of that?
We were all around it, but none of them were within what we call the collapse zone. Typically, the collapse zone is 2/3 of the distance out from the height of the wall is what you want to maintain. We had people further back than that just to make sure they were, you know, safe. But everybody was very near the building when it did collapse. So,
and Randy, are any of the other buildings in jeopardy, or were they pretty much secure?
Well, I think I would have to leave that up to a city building inspector to determine whether that building directly to the west might have sustained any damage. I'd mentioned to you earlier, that's a solid brick wall dividing the two buildings. It doesn't look like it was damaged, but that would be up to the building inspector.
Any updates on the injured firefighter?
I'm sorry, the injured firefighter, I don't. It was a very minor injury, so I'm sure he's doing fine. He's being evaluated. I'm not sure what hospital he's at.
No one's missing or anything like that?
Nobody's missing. Not to my, are you talking about civilians or my own people? Nothing's been reported to me as anybody being missing.
And so. When that front wall collapsed right there, was anybody injured? Or?
No. I was standing right in front of where it happened at the time. It was fine. Everybody was out of that collapse zone.
Can you tell us again a little bit about how quickly and why maybe it caught so quickly on fire, this building?
I'm sorry, say it again.
From we're hearing it started in the back area. I mean, just any idea why it spread so quickly throughout this building?
Well, I don't. I mean, we don't know when the fire started. It might have been burning overnight for all as we know. It wasn't reported to us till I think the call came in. I don't have my printout in front of me, but I think it was just before 8 a.m. this morning. But who knows how long it had been burning before somebody actually saw it and reported it. Sometimes fires go unchecked for a period of time. But as to why and how at this point, it's just too hard to speculate on that.
Thank you so much, Randy.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, take care.
That's Deputy Chief Randy Zingler giving us an update on the latest on this 5-alarm fire here at 12th and Valete. I will have you take a look behind me. This is the latest right now. Since our last update, the front wall has collapsed. As Deputy Chief Randy Zingler had mentioned, nobody was injured during that collapse. Now, there was one firefighter injured falling from a ladder, minor injuries, and as he mentioned, unsure exactly which hospital he was taken to. Reporting live from 12th and Valete, Melissa McCready, today's TMJ4. Vince, back to you.
And Melissa, let's touch on one other thing that the Deputy Chief there was talking about, the fact that I think you reported with the 5-alarm blaze, it was more than 120 firefighters down on scene. He called it half of the department, and because of that, they had neighboring fire departments manning Milwaukee firehouses just in case something else happened.
Yeah, and Vince, just to let you know, it ended up being more than 150 firefighters. With the 4-alarm fire called, there were more than 120. Then they called that 5th alarm. That ended up bringing in more than 150 firefighters. And when that happens, that leaves many fire stations unmanned because they're all out here at the scene manning this fire. I'll have you go and take a live look. You can see several firefighters still on scene. As mentioned, more than 150 150. So when those fire stations are unmanned, Milwaukee Fire works with neighboring communities to bring in firefighters and fire apparatus from those neighboring communities to take over those fire stations just in case there's an emergency call or another call that doesn't have to do with this fire, and that way the entire city is protected at all times. Vince, back to you.
Melissa, last thing for you, too. We joined you a little bit late there as the deputy chief was talking. Where is he in terms of declaring this fire out? It certainly appears to be under control, but is it for the most part out, or what did he say as far as that response?
He said it is under control, not quite out. And of course, you know, with covering fires, the fire itself may be out, but a lot of hot spots recreate because it is so hot. He says crews are going to be out here for several hours, and once they finally get this fire out, they get those hot spots out, everything is out of the way. That's when they bring in the fire investigators and the state fire marshal to go in, try to find the origin of that fire and try to find the cause. But he said in this case, so much fire burned the inside of the building that it's going to be hard to find some of those answers. Vince?
Melissa McCready live with all the information for us from 12th and Valete this morning. Melissa, thanks very much. Chopper 4 has been flying above that fire for most of the morning. And a live picture once again here from our helicopter. Let's go up to Mark Waz. He's our photojournalist who spent a lot of years up in Chopper 4 and has been up above this morning. Mark, I can't believe, when we were talking last in our live coverage, when the flames were flying and the smoke was thick and heavy, that we're at this point already. Maybe to some degree it was a little helpful that the building collapsed in on itself and they were able to get water on all parts of this fire.
Correct, Vinny. It's quite a different scene from about an hour and a half ago. Walls have collapsed inward. They continue to pour water on it. You can see a couple of firefighters on the aerial ladders here, a couple of unmanned ones, but they continue to pour water on it, and thank goodness it collapsed inward, although that north wall did collapse out onto the street, as Melissa mentioned.
And Mark, any sign of damage around the building? I know when firefighters got there, and they have been saying this morning, their whole objective was, considering this, for the most part, vacant building, was going to be a loss anyway. They just wanted to make sure that it wasn't spreading. It looks from this vantage point like they did a pretty good job of that.
Yes, they did. The building to the west looks as though it was slightly damaged, maybe a little smoke and water, possibly a little bit of heat. To the east of it, some debris on the roof and in some of the other areas. But for the most part, the firefighters did an excellent job of containing it to this single building. We've seen a few firefighters walking around into the front looking for clues and things as to the origin. But so far, they have continued to pour water on it, and it looks like they did a very good job of containing it.
Last thing for you, Mark. You've been covering these sort of things for a long time. Just because we're not seeing a whole lot of smoke here or steam and no visible flames at this moment doesn't mean, and Melissa hit on this as well, doesn't mean that firefighters are going away anytime soon. They could still be out here for hours just making sure.
Well, Vinny, they're going to continue to dump water on this, as you well know. These things can start up after a few hours, if not a day or two later. The Patrick Cudahy fire, the Quad Graphics fire, those were fires that are a lot bigger than this, but they poured water on those fires for a day or two before they were totally out. They'll probably have to bring in some backhoes or some excavating equipment and just dig through this just to make sure the water gets on all of the hot spots.
Mark Waz, live for us up in Chopper 4 this morning and into the afternoon. Mark, thanks very much. We're going to have you check out some of the smoke that was filling I-43 this morning. Earlier, when Mark and Chopper 4 were up, people were trying their best to keep an eye on the road and get through traffic safely. Smoke seen for miles from around that area. There's some ground level stuff as well. This is a picture from one of our photographers, I-43 southbound. He shot this from, I believe, the Walnut Street Bridge. Our photographer Butch Jorgensen having gone out there and bringing us this still photo. In fact, you can see on the right-hand side, slow traffic ahead, one of those mobile signs that was placed out there by the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, or at the request of the Sheriff's Office, to let people know that this smoke was coming and they needed to slow down as they headed on into it. 10 minutes after the noon hour, and continuing our live team coverage of the 5-alarm fire. This time we head out to Cody, Holyoke, where a lot of businesses nearby, Cody, were affected by that blaze. And you talked with a furniture store owner nearby?
That's right. I've talked to quite a few people who work and own businesses along Valete Street here. They've been watching for hours as firefighters have been trying to tackle the blaze. They've been trying to figure out exactly what's going on, if their businesses are going to be affected. We can tell you the Marcia Cox Human Services Center is closed for the day. We saw some supervisors inside the building evaluating the extent of the damage. Also, the furniture building we're talking about, the best quality furniture building right next to the scene of this blaze, is getting the brunt of smoke and fire damage from this fire. Now, owners are here watching the walls of their building erupt in flames. They saw that wall collapse just a few minutes ago, seeing the smoke billowing into their store. I spoke with the owner just moments ago. When you saw this, what was going through your head?
The safety of people. I mean, as I mentioned before, we are here in this street more than 20 years now, and I really concerned about the safety of people. The first question I asked, did anyone get hurt? And then when we found out nobody got hurt, we just thank God anyway.
Now, as we heard from the deputy chief just a little while ago, there was one injury, a minor injury from what we're being told of a Milwaukee firefighter. People here still waiting along the corner, trying to figure out exactly what happened. Firefighters have told us they don't believe this blaze will spread to other buildings. When asked by reporters if some of these buildings nearby are in jeopardy, they say they wouldn't comment. It's still too early to tell. They said they'd have to have the building inspector come and check that. People here just welcoming any information at all. And of course, when we get any new details, we'll pass those along. On your side, live near 12th and Valete, Cody Holyoke, today's TMJ4.
All right, Cody, thanks very much. Coming up on 12 minutes after the noon hour, still obviously a lot of work to be done in the surrounding area. The smoke, the fire, the severe heat that we've been talking about, an impact on just about everybody near the scene. And not far away is Repairers of the Breach. It's an outfit that helps the homeless. And right now we're going to talk with the executive director, McCannon Brown, with how the fire has impacted your operation. Thanks so much for joining us. How are you guys doing today?
We are holding firm. We're still standing, and we're people of strength and faith. The daytime homeless refuge and resource center that we offer at 14th and Valete, we've been at risk of evacuation on call, a possible evacuation during this morning. We've had masks provided for smoke inhalation, possible problems, and we have been in prayer. We are people. The people we serve were already in crisis, Patrick, because of the heat spell. Of the 80 people that we have served so far this morning, homeless people seeking our resources and refuge here, 8 of whom were vets, 5 of whom were women, they have been able to be cared for here in air conditioning. We have been getting donations of bottled water, which are seriously needed, and we're blessed to know that we are not asked to evacuate. There's been a plan in place. We've had a crisis plan in place, and we are so thankful to be all right.
You know, Ms. Brown, you mentioned the faith that you all share there, and perhaps there is a silver lining to this, and that we're talking about this on TV today. So give yourself another plug there. I know you have been asking for people to donate bottled water, not just for the folks who are in your direct care, but also some of the other area homeless who are certainly suffering through this heat wave. So tell us again where people can bring donations and exactly what you need.
That is 1335 West Valete Street. And we are open from 7 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, Monday through Saturday. And we are definitely, just as we are a place to go in the winter when it's cold, a place to get warm, just the reverse of that. More people die in the heat than die in the cold, actually. We have people who are in various medical conditions who don't have access to tap water at night. People can learn more about us at our website, of course, Repairers of the Breach, but the urgent need now, besides making sure that we're still okay with this raging fire going on, is to make sure that our people's needs are taken care of. These are people that are often forgotten, Patrick, in a natural disaster. Oftentimes people think of pets and so forth, but the people who are without, who are displaced, we're so thankful to you for bringing us on the air today.
McCann Brown, Executive Director of Repairs of the Breach. Best of luck to you and the folks down there, and hopefully we'll get some extra donations today. Glad everyone, for the most part, is well this afternoon. 12:15 on today's TMJ4. We, of course, are staying plugged into this breaking news story. We'll continue to follow it at 12th and Valete. Once again, a live look at the scene. This is our ground level camera. As you see, firefighters perched atop their tower positions, pouring water onto the collapsed building. A long day for those firefighters. A hot one, too, one that escalated to a 5-alarm blaze at its height.